you can hear me well. And if I could get a confirmation on that from Luis, a nod, you can hear me. Okay, lovely. Um, so I have been very excited about this event because there is so much that we can learn from tuning in together and looking at the themes that we go through in a collective. And not I've found in my life the tools of astrology and numerology to be amazing at really capturing fundamental themes that all of us go through in our lives in different ways. So it's going to look different for all of us, but these themes are overarching. And so we can find the points where we relate to each other and where we feel grounded into one experience. So in order to ground into this experience that we're sharing here today, I would like to attune to the current energy of this 8 together. So if you feel that you're in a comfortable position, if not, make yourself comfortable and bring yourself into the center and allow yourself to focus on your breath as you close your eyes as we attune together to this energy of the 8. Let this breath bring you into your heart, into the center where all the energy is spiraled, all the blood is squeezed through that spiral formation. The heart is pumping through the aid of the spiral that is all throughout our veins. And that is the formation in which the water becomes structured. That is the formation of rivers, as the rivers are like the veins of Mother Earth. So let your energy, let your waters flow in every direction. And as they flow in every direction, start to notice a pattern, weaving in and out, up and down. And this harmonizes, it comes to the center. We can see this as a sideways 8 of the infinity symbol, or the Mobius strip in our hearts. You may also move your hands if you like to move, or maybe just your right hand or your left hand to guide this movement, centering it in your heart. As you breathe, feel your polarities come into a balance. You're in touch with your right, you're in touch with your left, you're in touch with your positive, you're in touch with your negative, you're in touch with your masculine, you're in touch with your feminine. And come into the heart stillness. Let's breathe here for a moment. The energy moves. We find ourselves still at the center, at that beautiful 0 point. And as we turn the 8 to represent the principle of as above, so below, we feel this beautiful cross that we're creating. And we are in touch with our higher selves as well as our lower selves, not abandoning any part of our polarities. We're connected to all parts from this central place that brings into alignment all. Let's breathe here. Thank you. Thank you for honoring yourself and your outer self by being here and in touch with yourself. Thank you for honoring the part of your outer self that is us with your presence here. We welcome you in loving energy of our heart. As we feel grounded into our hearts, to listen with openness and discern from our heart's wisdom, using it as our truest compass, all the information that is received, to know where to apply it in our lives. Not only to know what to dismiss, but also to know where it's true and where it isn't. The key to discerning is to seeing the dichotomies, that something is both true and untrue, except for the very fundamentals. And where we apply those truths are the most relevant in our discernment. So apply what serves and apply how it serves. And slowly breathe into your presence here in this conversation, the sharing as you open your eyes as slowly as you feel. I welcome your light. Thank you for being here again. And I would like to give the space for Luis to share about astrology, to anchor us into a presence of understanding the themes that have been going through us this year and what we can look forward to in the next year and how we can utilize it for our greatest conscious benefit.
Thank you.
Before we proceed, we are recording, correct?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. So before we proceed, I would like to give a small introduction to who we are. So Barnabas is who just shared the meditation, and we both live in Costa Rica. Luis, and we are passionate to share about these information and knowledge about higher consciousness and also how to consciously live here on Earth. And I personally am very passionate about astrology. I'm also a sound healer and I do tarot as well. So before I begin sharing information, I would like to express my gratitude to all of you who are given of your time today to be here and to receive this information, for your sensitivity to attune with the cycles that are happening at this moment. Also to Barnabas for inviting me to co-create this event today, and to the Great Spirit that allows for the life to be this moment and for everything to be expressed. So I have prepared a presentation, so I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you can see the screen. Yes? Okay, perfect. So I'm just gonna set a timer here because I probably will speak a lot, so I'll need to know how much time I have left. All right. So I'm going to share with you guys some of the astrology themes that we have lived through 2024 to understand what has been moved for us collectively and, of course, on an individual level as well. And we're going to dive deep into the energies that are coming for 2025. Um, we're definitely living through a very special time here on the planet. The energies that we're going through are very specific to these times. Humanity has not really lived, um, like no human alive has lived the energies that we're going through at this moment. So it's a very special time for the collective consciousness and for evolution as well. So there were some important transits in 2024, and one of the most important ones was this conjunction that happened between Jupiter and Uranus in the sign of Taurus. These planets form conjunctions every 13, 14 years. So it's they they join together every certain amount of time, but in Taurus, for this to happen, it happens every like 85 years or so. So this this conjunction was important because Jupiter is a planet that represents expansion. Anything that comes into contact with Jupiter becomes expanded in its nature. Uranus is a slower planet that takes more time to transit over each sign. So when Jupiter came into contact with Uranus, it expanded its characteristics of the elevation of consciousness. Uranus is the archetype of the awakening, is also the god of the sky. So in the sign of Taurus that has to do with Earth, with the physical manifested reality, with health, with food, with our bodies, this conjunction represented in the year for us collectively and individually the expansion of these topics. And it invited us to connect a lot with Mother Earth, with our bodies, to see in what areas we need to work for connecting more with our health, with our habits, with our finances. All of these themes of Taurus became very present in the year of 2024. And it was a year that was very transformative and very alchemical because for example, Chinese astrology, the the year 2024 was the wood dragon. Not only that, when the when the astrological year begins, which is in March 20th in the equinox, each year has an ascendant, and the ascendant for 2024 was Capricorn, which is a sign ruled by Saturn. It represents karma, the law of cause and effect. So generally and collectively, 2024 has been a year of alchemy, a year where we have gone through the lessons that our souls are here to do and to go through in order to evolve and in order to grow and in order to expand. So this conjunction was also like a leap of into a new energy that is now beginning to slowly manifest. Another of the important transits of 2024 was the entrance of Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter transits 1 year in each sign, so this is a much faster transit. But Jupiter in Gemini came to expand our connection with social media, with communication, with relationships, with the air element. So there might have been a lot of themes around the air element as well, with Jupiter expanding this air sign. Every year we also have eclipses, and for 2024, these eclipses happened in the axis of Aries and Libra, where the lunar nodes transit. The lunar nodes are very important in astrology because they represent the collective mission of humanity, what we're here to collectively focus and drive our attention forward, and also what we're here to become aware of from the past and what we need to transform from the past in order to continue our evolution. So these energies in Aries and Libra have been a lot about awakening the inner warrior, awakening our sense of bravery and self-drive and motivation to do the things that we're here to do. So because 2024 has been a very alchemical year and it has confronted us with a lot of our fears, with a lot of our limitations, with a lot of the things that we feel stuck on. This North Node in Aries has not been easy to embody because it is like breaking through certain walls or shields that are not so easy to break through. But definitely the invitation of these energies has been to see where our passions lie, where our motivations and our drive lies from the heart, because that's where, on a soul level, we are asked to move into. And 2025 will be an important year for this. So I'm not going to like go very deep into all the aspects or a lot of information in 2024 because we want to focus more on 2025. But obviously, the most important and most transcendental and the astrological event of 2024 that will mark the next 20 years is the transit of Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is the most outer planet in the solar system known today, and it's the slowest, of course. So it takes a long time for it to transition from one sign to another. Pluto had been in Capricorn since 2008, and it's until now that it is entering Aquarius. It entered Aquarius on November 19th of this year. And this, we're going to speak more on Pluto in Aquarius later, but it's such an important transit because it represents a new shift, a new paradigm for us collectively. I'm going to dive more deep into this later, so I'm going to leave it at that. And what I mentioned earlier, that the rising for the astrological year of 2024 was Capricorn. So obviously, we have felt this year to be very karmic, a lot of lessons, a lot of things that feel like came to our lives to teach us something, is because the energy of Capricorn has been very present for this year. As well, it was a year number 8 that Barnabas is going to share with us later, which also represents some of those karmic lessons. And of course, when we have the energy of the dragon, it already gives us this image that it's going to be a powerful year. So 2024 definitely has been a major year for all of us collectively. So we're going to go ahead and touch on the important transits of 2025. I'm not going to touch on all of these individually because of the time, but this year we have both Saturn and Neptune entering the sign of Aries. This is the reason why I said in the beginning that humanity in this moment has like nobody alive here has lived the energies that we're going through, is because a lot of the outer planets, well, the three of them, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, are changing into new energies. And this doesn't happen very often. So Saturn and Neptune entering Aries will be a major shift as well, and I'm going to talk about it in the next slide. Jupiter will move from Gemini into Cancer. This will happen on June the 10th of next year, 2025, and it will be until June 29th of 2026. Uranus will also enter Gemini. It is currently transiting Taurus, and it's one of those planets that is very slow. So it's now going to enter Gemini. I'm going to touch on this in the next slides as well. The lunar nodes, the ones that are the lunar nodes that are responsible for the eclipses and for these very important processes of collective mission and awakening, are going to also shift from Aries, Libra, now into Pisces, Virgo. I'm going to touch more on this on the next slide as well. One minor transit, but no less important, is Venus going retrograde in Aries and Pisces. So Venus will be direct in Aries, and then it will start going retrograde. This will be on March the 1st through April the 12th of 2025. So it will retrograde back into Pisces. Then it will go direct on April the 12th, moving back into Aries. I'm not going to touch so much on this energy of Venus retrograde, but when Venus goes retrograde, it's an important moment to check on our values and to see how the relationship with ourselves has been up until this point. It is definitely an important transit, but it's because Venus is more of a faster planet. Its influence is also not as predominant, is off the moment. So within those months that it will be retrograde, there will be these themes to work on, and then it will go direct again. Now, for the rising of 2025, which I'm going to share more on this later, we're moving from Capricorn, which was 2024, to now a Gemini rising. This is very, it gives us a lot of information on how this next year is going to be. Because if we felt 2024 as a heavy year, it's because Capricorn has to do with Earth. And Earth is very stable, very hard. It doesn't move very quick. But 2025 shifts the energy into a much quicker, faster, young energy. Not only because Gemini is the rising for this next year, but also these outer planets that I mentioned earlier are moving from yin signs into yang signs. They're moving from feminine energy to masculine energy. And the masculine energy is much, much faster than the feminine. The feminine needs time to develop, to feel, to tune in, while the fire and the air are much about going fast, going into rhythms that can feel quicker. So this year in the Chinese astrology, it's going to be the wood snake. Last year was also a wood year. It was the wood dragon. And this year is the wood snake. And both the dragon and the snake hold, at least for me, like hold a lot of this message about transformation, about alchemy, And this year, 2025, is also about alchemy. And the snake is all about shedding, right? So we're still going through a lot of transition. For me, 2025 is a year of mutability, is a year of transition, and it is until 2026 that a lot of these planets um, are going to fully enter into these signs. In 2025, um, Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn, that are these planets that are shifting, they're going to shift into these new signs, but they're also going to go retrograde back into the sign in which they were. And it's until 2026 that they will definitely enter into these signs. So, which gives us this message that 2025 will be a glimpse, will be a year of transition. It's a year of closing a cycle for what is coming in 2026. It's a year of number 9, which Barnabas will expand on that later. So let's talk about Saturn and Neptune in Aries. What this means for us individually and collectively. Saturn specifically will be in Aries from May 25th to September 1st. Then it will go retrograde, and it's until 2026 that it will enter definitely in Aries for the next 3 years until 2029 approximately. Neptune will also enter Aries from March 30th to October 22nd. Then it will go retrograde back into Pisces and will enter definitely into Aries in 2026. Forming a conjunction, Saturn and Neptune will form an union, a conjunction that will begin a new cycle. Both of these will be conjunct exact in Aries on February 20th of 2026. Now, what does all of this mean? Because obviously I love to share about dates and the technical aspects of astrology because I feel very passionate about that. But when we are bringing all these concepts into the earth, grounding them to see what they really mean for us, then we have to look at what these archetypes represent. Saturn represents the archetype of the master that has lived already through many experiences in life and has reached a point where it becomes aware of its own karmic lessons so that it can take the responsibility to the things that in the past have been done from an unconscious place so that they can be worked upon and transformed to keep on walking a more conscious path. So it's all about learning from the karmic lessons for us to embody more of our Dharma. Saturn has to do with responsibility, with time, with consistency, with developing our talents, with thinking in long term. Saturn has to do with also death in a way, and knowing that time here on earth is limited, that this incarnation that we are on is limited. Our soul is limitless, but this specific incarnation has a time limit, and we are all bound to death. So Saturn reminds us that it's important to not waste time, to be aware of what are the lessons we need to embody in this time. And because it's going to enter the sign of Aries, Aries is a fire sign. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and it represents the archetype of the warrior. It's that part in us that wants to move forward, that wants to open new doors, that wants to start and begin new challenges, new chapters in life. So Saturn in Aries will be this message for us collectively to ask ourselves, what do I really want? And does that align with the way in which I have been living my life? Do my actions reflect how I want to continue my path? Aries has to do with connecting with oneself, with our ego, with what it is that I desire. And if that comes from a place that is unconscious, Saturn in Aries will reflect it to us through our relationships, through our work, through all the dynamics in our lives. It will become almost unbearable if we're not living from an aligned place. Saturn in Aries will mirror this in the outside to show us how we can take responsibility for these things. Now, because it's not only Saturn that it's coming into Aries, but it's actually being joined with Neptune, this becomes an even more of a message to embody our inner warrior. Neptune is the archetype of the savior. Neptune is the ruler of the sign of Pisces, and as many of you might know, Pisces is the age in which we have been for the last 2,000 years. That started with Christ consciousness, and because collectively we have put a lot of this belief into an external source, that an external source is here to save us, it has become collectively a shadow of putting in the outside the responsibility and the savior, so that we don't awaken our own capacity to save ourselves. However, this shift of Neptune coming into Aries will definitely put us into a spot that is about embodying our inner savior. It's not about expecting anything or anyone outside of ourselves to come and take us out of the situation or to save us from something, but to actually know that we have all the tools, all the knowledge, all the power to change our lives and to create the lives we want from a more conscious place. I see somebody wrote something in the chat. If you guys have any questions or anything like this, I will read them at the end so that we don't get interrupted on this. But thank you for the questions. You can definitely put them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. Now, I put here this card. This is an oracle deck called the Symbolon, an astrological deck. And what we see here is this energy of Neptune going into Aries. This shows a warrior that is resting on this tree, and this is himself as the expression of his higher self that is awakened, waiting for him to wake up. We also see in the back of the card a horse that is tied to a tree. The horse represents our instincts, our desires, our fire that we have sort of tied in the back of our subconscious because we are afraid to let it be wild, to let it be free. And so we have with Neptune in Pisces, which this transit has been going on since 2012, there's a lot of information that I would love to share because it goes very deep, but because we don't have a lot of time, I'm gonna try to keep myself on as much precise as possible. But Neptune has been in Pisces since 2012, and 2012 was also an important chapter for the Mayans. It was when the calendar ended, but started a new chapter. Now, Neptune in Pisces has shown us all of these shadows about illusions, about believing things that were not necessarily true, or creating a reality that has felt not very grounded or real, in which we can feel secure. Now with Neptune in Aries, it's important that this part in us is awake, that if we have felt in some sort of slumber, some sort of if a part of our consciousness has felt asleep, in Neptune in Aries will be a transit of awakening of this spiritual warrior inside all of us that is waiting for us to embody all of our talents, all of the all of what we have inherited from our ancestors, from all of our lineage as humans, and also from our collective galactic information and codes that we receive. Um, so this is what I'm going to share about Saturn and Neptune in Aries, and there's a lot more, but I feel like this is most important. Now, to continue, we're going to see Uranus entering Gemini. This is also another transit that is going to bring us into a very potent shift for us all. I just mentioned that we are coming from a transition of the age of Pisces that has been going on for the last 2,160 years. Now we are entering the age of Aquarius. Aquarius is a sign ruled by Uranus. So anything that happens with Uranus will give us messages, will give us information that will be important for us collectively. For this new age, this new paradigm shift that we're all co-creatively going into. So Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018. Taurus is an earth sign. It's very much about the manifest reality, the senses, the values, the finances, the foods. Now, Uranus going into Gemini is a great shift from earth to air, from yin to yang, from feminine to masculine. Uranus in Gemini will expand our awareness in not only our human our human codes, our human ancestry, our human information, but it will also open the door for us to embody more of our galactic, more of our universal cosmic selves. Uranus entering Gemini, which will happen definitely in 2026, will drive a lot of galactic information, and I'm sure we'll see this on the media where NASA or other sources will start to become more aware of things that are going on in the universe that is very much alive. So this transit will be from July 7th to November 8th of next year, but Uranus will enter definitely in Gemini on April 25th of 2026 until 2033. As we see here in this card of the symbolon, when we combine the energies of Gemini and Aquarius, or Mercury and Uranus, which is this combination of Uranus entering Gemini, what we see is the necessity for us to look up, to look into the sky, to look into the air, to look beyond ourselves. In doing so, we do need to be careful that we don't get lost or we don't get disconnected from the earth, from the yin, because if we look up and we just focus our attention on the air, on the mind, on the thought, on the future, on what's coming, then it's very likely that we will not be able to see what is right in front of us that is also important to look, and that is telling us that, hey, there is something here that you don't look at it, you might fall because you're not paying attention. So these shifts that are happening in 2025 from planets going from earth and water to fire and air are going to accelerate a lot of the reality. and our perception of time will become much more accelerated, but the events in the express reality will also go in a very accelerated pace. So it's very important for us to individually tune in with our earth, with our habits, with our morning routines, with the foods that we're eating, with our practices that remind us of our presence, of being in the moment, of listening to our bodies, to tend to our emotions. And an over polarization to the air element can take us away from the roots, and this can very easily disconnect us. So coming into the heart will also be very important with these transits. Uranus in Gemini will expand technology, will also bring a lot of new discoveries and technologies in scientific research. Artificial intelligence will expand. If we are thinking about starting new businesses or going into different type of commercial pursuits, Uranus and Gemini is definitely going to assist us in expanding in entrepreneurial ways. When because there's a lot of air in the next year, this transition is inviting us to transition to a more free state of being, to see what we have given so much energy to that now has been so stabilized in our lives, but that has sort of like put us into a slave state as well. If we feel that our jobs are not making us happy, that we are on an automatic pace in our lives, that we don't feel free in general. Pluto in Aquarius, Gemini, Uranus in Gemini is all about freedom. It's all about seeing what we need to be more free, more authentic, mentally, physically, emotionally, and holistically. Another important transit that is happening is that the North Node and the South Node are also shifting. The North Node and the South Node are responsible for the eclipses each year and the collective mission on planet Earth. This transit will be from January 29th, 2025 through July 27th, 2026. The North Node has been in Aries, is now shifting into Pisces. The South Node has been in Libra, is now shifting into Virgo. The North and the South Node are an axis. They are always opposite to each other, and they transit in reverse. They're not going in anti-clockwise, they're going clockwise. So they're going in reverse motion from how the other planets transit around the sun. So the North Node going into Pisces means that we collectively are also connecting more with our spiritual inheritance. Pisces is all about the water element. It's represented by the angel in this card. It's all about connecting with our magical gifts, with our imagination, with our creative nature, with our yin side, with our feminine, in order to attune to the messages that are going to come from within to embody more of this warrior energy that I talked to in the past slide. The South Node in Virgo. The South Node represents what we need to become aware of from the past, the way in which we have sort of attached to that may not allow for the new to be anchored. So the South Node in Virgo will also confront us with seeing what habits, what structures have been built that no longer are beneficial for us all. If we look at collectively, for example, the education system, the work system, the financial system, all these systems have been structured in a way that have not evolved or changed in hundreds of years. So the South Node in Virgo will be about seeing what systems collectively, but also individually, we have created that are no longer helping us evolve into this 21st century that we're on, and going more into a more collective unity point of view for us all into Pisces. Pisces is all about unity and feeling each other as brothers and sisters. The illusion of separation in 2025 will dissolve more and more, and there will actually be more of a massive awakening. So all of us that are on a path that is about service and sharing and helping others and guiding others and doing spiritual work, next year it will be so very necessary for all of us to be very coherent, because a lot of souls will start to seek new alternatives, new therapies, new ways in which they can expand their awareness or go through their emotional things that are going on, because there's going to be a lot of people going through existential crises next year. Like, people will no longer stand to live for less. Like, people will really realize that they're not living in their full potential. And so they will start to question all those things that are not letting them walk the path that is more aligned to them. And finally, I want to speak to Pluto in Aquarius, which is such an important transit, and it entered Aquarius on November 19th, 2024, and will be in Aquarius until January 2044. Pluto takes 248 years to complete a full cycle around the sun, which means that Pluto was not in Aquarius for 250 years almost. And when Pluto was in Aquarius, a lot of collective revolution was happening. The French Revolution, the US was getting independent. There was a lot of things that were changing for the planet. So we're also entering this new shift that is so very important, and it fills me with great optimism for the new that is going to start to unfold for us all. This transit marks the intense shift, the age of Aquarius, that slowly began in 1936, and that is now that Pluto in Aquarius officially brings more of this powerful energy. This transit represents the phoenix. It's the rising from the ashes, is the remembrance of who we truly are as the collective, as humans, but also as galactic beings that are here to elevate the consciousness of the planet, to elevate into a new dimension, a dimension that is more focused on love, on unity, and on seeing each other as cooperative, as co-creative, and not as competition. Pluto in Aquarius comes to transform all the social systems and a lot of the way in which we have established community and relationships with ourselves and with others. Pluto in Aquarius will begin a shift into a paradigm of freedom, and it's all about this hopeful energy of what I want to build going forward. There is a lot that Pluto in Aquarius comes to expand upon, and that I would love to share, but my time is already due. So I'm going to now, to finish this part, share with you just a little bit of information on the chart for the new astrological year of 2025. as we see here, the rising of 2025 is Gemini, and Jupiter sits right next to the ascendant. Like I told you guys before, Jupiter is a planet that expands, and this next year will be expanded by the era of Gemini and Jupiter coming here to expand our mind, our awareness, show us different walls can go and expand into. It's like if we had not been able to see a solution or a door that could be opened, this next year will show us the way. It will show the door which we can cross and that we can transition into if we open our minds and our perceptions. As you can see here, another very important, um, very important thing of this chart of the new astrological year is that a lot of the planets are sitting together. This is called a stellium in astrology. We have the sun in Aries because the astrological year begins when the sun enters Aries. We have Neptune next to the sun at 29 degrees of Pisces, right about to enter Aries. We have the North Node at 27 degrees of Pisces, Saturn at 23 degrees of Pisces. We have Venus retrograde at 4 degrees of Aries, Mercury retrograde at 7 degrees of Aries. All of these planets and points are together forming a stellium. And this is in the 11th house, the house of Aquarius. The midheaven is also in Aquarius, which gives us this message that this year we're going to literally experience the future. We're going to literally experience what is coming for humanity for the next 20 years and beyond. It's all about freedom. It's a year that is all about freedom. There will be a lot of themes on communication, on expanding the mind, on expanding the dualities, on going beyond the dualities into a trinity way of thinking, into more channeling the information that comes from our higher selves and forming new relationships, new communities. Lastly, another important aspect is Mars in Cancer at 20 degrees, forming a square to Chiron in Aries at 21 degrees. This square is very important because we collectively are healing a lot of our masculine energy. And because we are moving into masculine yang energies, we collectively have been wounded in our ability to initiate, to act upon our intuition, our instincts, our desires. So this next year is all about seeing the wounds that have not allowed for us to act upon what we want and why that is, so that we can embody more of the spiritual warrior to act for the evolution of our consciousness, to heal ourselves, and to heal all of our ancestry and those around us as well. Thank you. So before I pass on the mic to Barnabas, I would like to share our social media if you guys want to follow us. This is the Instagram for Barnabas. You can find me I share in English and Spanish, so you can find me on solar.alchemist in English or Alquimista Crístico in Spanish. So before I go, I just want to read here in the chat if there was anything. Susan says, the session is so good. Will you share this recording with us? I hope so. I must hop off to go to my next class. Okay. So Susan is probably gone by now, but yes, we are recording and we can share the recording with you guys. So thank you for your listening, for receiving. You guys have any questions before I pass on to Barnabas? You can unmute
Let's do
yourself.
the questions at the end.
Okay, yeah, we can also leave the questions to the end. So I'll pass on the mic.
All right. Well, that was so much information, and I'm very excited to to dive into some more, but I also feel it's good to take a moment to, you know, tap our bodies and integrate the information a little bit, you know, get present and warm ourselves up. Thank you for your attention. So I want to start with what, you know, numerology really does is, you know, to recognize patterns that these numbers are appearing in our reality again and again in different ways. So it's a lot of correspondences and a lot of recognizing of those patterns in our reality. And what that can give us is when we learn to recognize these patterns for long enough, we actually know how to receive guidance from these patterns. And when we do that, when we do the like make connection with the numbers that are fundaments to our universe, we also gain a new pathway to communicate with our guides, to communicate with our subtle family that is always here surrounding and supporting us, and our great higher self always sending us wisdom through these numbers appearing all around us. So in the Gregorian calendar, we have a collective agreement that this year is going to be 2025. So if we add up the digits inside of any given year, so for the current year, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4, then of course we get 8. And that's why in numerology we see this year as the year 8 and the next one is the year 9. And so let's dive in. So for the year 8, there is an essence of what we tuned into this meditation in the beginning. As above, so below. There's an essence of the polarity and the correspondence in this number. So it connects our higher self with our lower self, our oversoul with our incarnate self, our divine self with our human self. So this essence of the macrocosm connecting with the microcosm, and both corresponding to one another, both communicating, both being a part of one. And in fact, we can see this if we take a strap, a piece of paper, and then we just make, oh, what is that? Like that could be a 0, right? But if we just flip one of the sides upside down, then we make this shape. This is called a Mobius strip. And this is the essence of the infinity. The energy moving in all directions of a single unit. And this can also be seen here in this drawing. I hope it's not too bright. That as you move on the axis of the y-axis and the axis of the x-axis, in every given moment, here also divided because, as you can see, there will be a positive on the first sign. I'm not sure if it's mirrored for you guys, but the first sign is symbolizing the x-axis. So, you know, here we are moving this way, so we're moving positive, okay. I will send this in a better format for everyone here, but the point is that, you know, it goes in both ways. So along the x-axis it increases, and along the y-axis it increases, and then for ebbs and flows in all directions the energy moves. And so what is this x-axis and y-axis that I'm talking about? This could be seen as the as above, so below, as within, so without principle. So inside, this could see inside and the outside on the x-axis. And we can see the below and above, or the higher nature and the lower nature in this axis. So this could be the part of ourself that sees itself as an individual, and the part of ourselves that sees itself as a part of all that is. and a part of ourselves that experiences itself from within, and a part of ourselves that experiences itself as it opens its eyes and looks at the world outside of itself. So these movements are what we move through in the letter 8, or the symbol number 8, or infinity, or Mobius strip. And if we look at a symbol of a DNA strand, then we can also see that a single part of that sequence itself is like an 8. And if we see that when cells divide, there's a point when the vesica Pisces, the two circles intertwined, uh, come to this shape. And we see it also if we turn a torus, which is the shape of our electromagnetic field, to its side. So this shape exists very fundamentally and multidimensionally in nature and all around us. So this is the dance of vibration, where the unification and the balance of polarities occurs in the experience of this movement. And in a more applied way, what this means to us is very well shown by the major arcana, the strength key. As we can see, this is a symbol that sends us a very deep message to be loving and yet a disciplined guide to our animalistic or lower egoic nature. The feminine is often interpreted as the subconscious and can be seen here as the subconscious needs, the true needs that we have, that when we recognize, not from a space of excess or a space of just pure desire, what we truly need. And on the lion, on the other hand, can be the self-driven desires and the base instincts. And these are being regulated by the love of our actual degree of need. So in this year, many of us have found different ways in which we have noticed how our excessiveness, which is actually connected with the energy where the feminine on the strength key comes from. She is before seen in the card of the Empress, and the Empress corresponds to Venus, and Venus in her shadow can be very excessive and fulfilling all her senses in order to gain pleasure, as opposed to truly being aligned with what is beneficial for the whole of one's being, the lower and the higher. So the feminine is this mirror that is showing that indulgence is now under control. It's now under control through self-love, and it's all about having mastery over that self-indulgent impulse that we have in our being to go for something that is not serving us. And in that heart, our heart, that is correspond to Leo, which of course is the astrological, the zodiac sign correspondence of the strength key. It tells us to connect with our heart and our heart's desire and our heart's truth. And so our heart is where all the spiral movement of reality is regulated in our being, in our bodies, when we are incarnate in this physical form. So we can also see that she is wearing the nature that was around her in the garden before on her body, which does represent that she is now calling the life force from outside of herself, from nature into herself through her self-care and self-love. And that is giving her the power to have the ability to tame that inner beast. And of course, she works with the power of nature, and therefore the power of nature works with her. So in this year, we have learned how to be more like her, how to be more working with the nature of our energy, how to work more with our true needs as opposed to we thought we needed, things that we just wanted to please ourselves with. Now we are using our heart more to govern this process, and we're rooted in love. So these are the lessons that the strength key gives us, and the eight is a really powerful energy, of course, with this rhythm and change and ebb and flow that we see in infinity. There is also the involution and evolution, these principles of polarities that come into balance through this vibration. In Gnosticism, the eight is the number of Christ. In Kabbalah, it's the Sephirah of glory, Hod, and it's associated with the solar plexus, which is connected with the adrenals in our body. And in the tree of life, the 8 to 9 is a path that corresponds to the sun. So also in Egypt, in ancient Egypt, the 8 is connected with Thoth, and who is the god of wisdom and of science and of being of correct measure. He's the one who does the measuring of our hearts on the scales of Ma'at when we go to the afterlife. So he's assessing the correct quantity of things. And of course, also there's the primordial 8 of the Ogdoad in the ancient Egyptian mysteries that are primordial, not incarnate beings that represent things like the primordial darkness and the primordial sea, where all of the ideas of creation exist as a potential. When it comes to 9, we see a different energy that bases itself on what has been learned in the 8. So 9 is, in its shape, it's showing us a spiral, just like 6. However, it goes in a different direction. Nikola Tesla, has famously talked about the keys of consciousness being held in 3, 6, and 9. And what I see is that if you draw a torus or a toroidal field, and you were to imagine a 3, it's the 3 connects from the 3 worlds or the 3 layers of our being, so we could see as the mental, spiritual, thought, and higher connection to the heart, to the emotion, to the field of feeling. And this connects to the bottom, to the thoughts, and sorry, to the physical body and the material realm. This key shows us that these are the 3 aspects that is also reflected in many ancient cultures. And the 9 is that which takes from the lowest of the physical material plane reality, the lessons, and brings it up into the emotional and into the thought, into the mind, into the higher spiritual awareness of it. So it spirals back up, integrating the physical experiences experienced in the material realm into spiritual emotional wisdom. And it's also this energy of the spiral. If we look at 6 in contrast, of course, it integrates spiritual understandings into the physical emotional reality. And the two contrasts, so they have a very important role to play, being that they are mirrors of each other, because in the way that we draw 6, we draw it like this. So we see it as like the consciousness contracting into emotional and physical reality. The attention in this moment is extroverted. So it is focused on, what the lover's key, for example, also represents in tarot is relationships and the way that we make decisions in the world from this place of heart-centeredness, from also a higher space of discernment as well, in a connection with our spiritual understanding of reality and our mind. And the integration works involves the self and the other. So it involves the external reality as a part of it, and the relationship we have with others. Whereas the 9, it's consciousness that goes like that. Consciousness expanding into emotional spiritual reality. And the attention is introverted, and the integration work is on a macro scale of connection. So it recognizes patterns that one has walked. So the inner self with the outer self, and the inner world with the outer world. This connection in a more greater way, seeing things from a bird's eye point of view, which we can also see in the Hermit card, which I will be talking about, standing on a mountain, looking down. What we also often feel from 9 is that it is the end of the single numerical sequence. So it culminates, it summarizes, it integrates the journey of the fool, the individual, before, and all of the stages of learning in that layer of our being come into integration. So this is why it's really important that we take time in this year of the 9, to see what we have walked in this past 10 years, and what were the lessons, what have we learned, what have we mastered, and finally integrate everything. Because what we can also see is that the 9 is the essence that brings us back to the 0. If we add any number to 9, so we add 2 to 9, 2 plus 9, 11, right? So then we add the parts of that back. 11, 1 plus 1 equals 2. So the 9 in this way disappears and goes back to the 0, goes back to its neutral potential. So the importance of the 9 is also to take back everything that you've learned into your wholeness and connect with the wholeness of your being. From this place of having the experience, having walked the experience, you're no longer the 0, you're no longer pure potential. You're potential that has taken the time to get to know itself. And it summarizes the experiences we've learned along the way. So the Hermit key is also a really powerful way to look at this energy, where I felt that this summed up the message for us for this next year very well. Walk the path of self-discovery and inspection with love and willingness. These are things that we have mastered in the key before. And this is what we're doing, is we're walking a path of self-discovery and inspection. In this path, we are led to understanding, to revelations, to a new perspective that we gain from this mountain, to the light that illuminates. But it has a cost, and that is the life that you have led before. The hermit had to leave behind the place where it lived before, and he had to walk up that mountain and to leave behind the ways in which he was before in order to be able to have this experience. And the life that you have lived before must be seen from afar to be understood. So it's not from a space of attachment that we reanalyze our experiences. With this Virgo correspondence here, we are going to analyze some of those things that we've worked through. For the usual of the everyday to not serve as a distraction, noticing the patterns that have been there, it's important to make space for ourselves to go and have experiences where we are taken outside of what is usual for us and really go inward and interrupt behavioral patterns and create new ones that serve to expand your consciousness by going inward and willingly so. The hermit did not end up here by accident, nor was he chased. He ended up here because he went on an initiatic journey to see the world from the top of the mountain and be matured in doing so. Conscious self actively climbs the mountain of the great work, integrating the journey that was once the fool's to now become the hermit after knowing oneself in the initiations and the movement and the dynamics before. Know oneself from within. Inspect how you walked this path. And what was it that, and what was the best way to walk forward now? What were the tools that worked for you in the past that you might want to take on? And what are the parts that you wish to release? Whether it's a path, whether it's a direction, whether it's a tool, whether it's a habit. There are many things that you can analyze in this earth realm of what is going to work, what is going to be the best tool for me, what is going to be the best pattern for me or habit for me. It is also a card of spiritual illumination. The fool is now aged, gained wisdom through experiences, and now he can understand the fundamental truths of life. He also illuminates the path for others and will eventually return from his introspection to share his wisdom with others. Which is also to say that this is not a year where you just go inside and you don't do anything. It is a time where you save for yourself the moment to be the hermit and then to bring the medicine back to the community. The hermit could also be someone who goes into the forest and collects herbs and listens to the wisdom of the plants in the meantime, and then brings that wisdom back and brings the medicine back. He needs to know what he actually needs to have made the journey. So he made this journey up to the mountain. And how did he do that? He only was able to do it because in the card 8, in strength, he learned how he can really understand what his true needs are. If he doesn't know how much water to bring, if he doesn't know how much water to, how much food to bring, how much clothing to put on so he doesn't get a cold, he would not be able to make the journey. He would have to turn back and come again and turn back and come again. And maybe that will be his path, and that's okay. But in order to get to that top, he needed to know what he needed. So it's not about making it all at once, but it's about learning what you truly need and what truly serves you. So these years are very important for our self-work and what we can do for ourselves to truly hold foundations to be able to create anything. And that brings us to a very important 9 in the 9 correspondences, which is the most important 9 in the life the lives of humanity. And it's the pregnancy, the 9 months of pregnancy. And we see so much symbology in this for the 9 that makes us understand even deeper what this year is going to be like. You know, the 9 months is the culmination of the strength that the pregnant mother has gathered, the culmination of all the nourishment that it received, that it gave to the baby inside of her, nourishing that life. And of course, 9 months is also the last stretch before the 10 is born, before the new way of life is born. And there are contractions that happen before the great expansion into the new life. And these contractions are not only just happening before then, they lead to the great expansion. And if we do these contractions willingly, if we walk and allow the contractions to happen, it becomes easier for that birth to happen. And the birth can be our new selves, but it can also be our projects. It can also be things that we're nourishing, the seeds that we're holding inside of us, our imagination, you know, holding tight for as many years before to really make something into reality, which is ties in with the astrology. This is a year for action. It's a year to actively nourish the seed that is inside of you so that it can be born. The result is a new life. And it's a letting go of the old way of being. The maiden lets go of her maidenhood in order to become pregnant and then to become a mother. And in being a mother, she continues to nourish that which was inside of her, now outside of her. But she needed to learn how her needs are, what her needs are, and what are the needs of this baby and how important they are when they are inside of her, so that she can really truly care and as it is being born, bring it to life from this sense of deep understanding of needs. And we also see that once a project is created, it has a life of its own. And so our duty is to nourish it and not to create attachments for it to look a certain way, which would be the shadow of the hermit correspondence of Virgo, is to have too much control over what something ought to look like, a sense of perfectionism. And further correspondences of the 9 also include the completion of a cycle, end and fulfillment. And it's the final result of the previous numbers, the perfection, the adeptness. In Kabbalah, in the Tree of Life, it is very significant. And in many other traditions, the 3 times 3 is very significant, where we often divide 3 parts of the divinity into 3, or the 3 layers of reality into 3 in these traditions. In the Tree of Life, it's the Sephirah of foundation, Yesod, and corresponding with the sacral chakra. In Egypt, the gods of the world that exists, that was created, so after the primordial, are called the Ennead, and their names are Atum, Shu, Tefnut, Geb, Nut, Osiris, Isis, Set, and Nephthys. And they are the 9 that are the gods in Egypt, or the Neter, that serve as very powerful archetypes for us to understand reality. And so in a very practical summary of what we can do is we can really allow ourselves to be conscious of our needs and to be very aware of our heart's discernment when we are engaging in anything that our willpower is leading us towards, and that we tune in inward for the wisdom, and we allow that greater part of our perception that sees greater patterns and sees the consequences, ripples of our actions in our lives, the correspondence of that infinity, because anything that the individual does is going to affect its connection with the whole and vice versa. So we will be very well adjusted if we pay attention to these fundamental things of how we treat ourselves, how we leave space for ourselves to tune inwards, how we balance contraction and expansion, and how we really allow ourselves to go back into our old potential and nourish the life that is coming after and from and through us. Thank you for your attention. I feel honored for everybody having listened to us, and I am very grateful. So let's open up for questions. If anybody feels, as Luis said, we'll do our best to answer them. And yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. I feel like it really solidified a lot of the things that have come to me this past year. Like I've had a lot of ideas of like, you're going through this now so you can help people later. And like, you're going to have to leave your old life behind in 2024 and like start a new one. Basically, that's more aligned with helping and being a part of the collective and more ground or I guess more grounded in the spiritual world than grounded in the physical world. Um, so I just want to say thank you for doing this. It really resonated with me.
Thank you. Thank you. Truly appreciate that. I did forget to say that if anybody feels like contributing, then we will have the email of PayPal on the chat. And if you reach out, I can also tell you thank you, and listening to more questions and feedback. Thank you.
Hey guys, I want to say the same. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the listening, and I feel the shift of the energy, and everything you said resonates with me. I'm looking forward to listening to the recording again, taking notes, and yeah, it's making sense. I can see how the last 10 years have been a journey for me where I left everything and I went into something I don't understand anything about, and now it all makes sense, and I see how I can feed back to the community. I also see you guys talking about community, and it resonates with me. The New World Order. I'm gonna make sure to put these things down so that I can also work on my investments and moving a bit to Bitcoin, to crypto in general. Like this is all very interesting, and I'm very glad that it's gonna be a year where we connect more to our higher selves and bring it on in this 3D. We work together. Thank you guys. Happy to see you all and happy new year.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Anybody else? Luis, did you want to add anything?
No, I would just say thank you to everyone who stayed to listen throughout. And yeah, there's a lot of gratitude in my heart for receiving, for being here, and yeah, for everything that is coming for us all collectively. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I wish you a truly blessed year. And I know that there are other cycles in the year where we can truly feel a shift of a different kind in the cycles of the equinoxes and the cycles of the moon. And oh, yeah, but the Gregorian year, of course, it gives us um, a sense of this collective numerological agreement that we have, and that really affects us. And the astrology is obviously going to be a very overarching theme for all of us, as the heavenly spheres are powerful that way. And I'm also reading Helena Murray Can't Talk as the house is full of sleeping kids, but thank you so much. Love the linking of the tarot and the path of the initiate. It resonated so much. Thank you so much. Beautiful. Well, happy New Year, everyone. And I'm very excited to see you. Join us for our next event, follow us, and stay tuned for what we're bringing. If you felt aligned, if you felt interested, of course, listen to yourself. If you feel that it helped you in some way, we really appreciate any of your feedback, your follows, your communication, your contribution. So blessings to you, and thank you so much for being here.
Blessings, everybody. Have a nice day.
Pura vida.
Pura vida.